even all, thanks all for coming. It's much appreciated. Yeah, I've known Davey for a little while now, and he's been very inspirational to me personally. And you meet people on this journey who are sometimes in things for themselves. You can see they think, they're in it for themselves. But honestly, he's a really genuine, honest guy who would help anyone, honestly. Yeah, over to you, Davey. It's been a pleasure.
Lovely. Right, well, thank you all for coming. Any of you that don't know who I am, my name is Davey. I'm commonly known as Peace Officer Davey, and I'm the founder of Peace Officers UK. Now, Peace Officers UK is an organisation that helps to educate people on how to deal with bullies at your door. Fundamentally, we're about attending people's properties and acting as an emergency service to the householder. Now, of course, we all know these enforcement agents that come out, they're bullies, they're thugs, they're idiots, okay? However, their idiocracy works to our favour, okay? And all we need to counteract that is some knowledge and some confidence. As Gok Wan said, it's all about the confidence. So confidence is key. Now, the trouble with these thugs is they rely heavily upon your lack of knowledge and also fundamentally your fear. Okay, they tap into your fears. And fear is just fear of the unknown. If you knew the outcome, you wouldn't fear it because you'd work out how to counteract it. Okay, and all you need, as I say, is knowledge and some confidence. Now, confidence comes with time. I've been doing this a very long time, getting rid of bailiffs and enforcement agents, and as such, I'm an old hand at it, dozens of times. But a lot of people haven't had to deal with these thugs before, and you know, they may be looking forward, quotes, to their first visit, and of course, crapping themselves at what's going to happen. Yeah, what do I say? How do I get rid of them? Now, that fear can eat you up inside, okay, and eats up a lot of people who get a notification, an email, a text message, or a letter through the door from their local jolly enforcement agents, telling them that they're going to come round, take control of goods. Now, I had one only yesterday. However, he didn't knock on my door, he or she, I don't know. They didn't knock on my door. They just posted a letter, and I've got the letter here. That's the letter they posted through my door. Now, at the top, it says delivered by hand. Can anybody else tell me here another way of delivering a letter, by any chance? So why do they put delivered by hand? Well, it's a little psychological technique. Yeah, these are all things to get you scared. Yeah, because then you know they've been to your home, they've invaded your private property. Now, I've had loads of these. Yeah, as I say, they just come out, they post it through the door. Why do they bother? Well, because they need a picture of them posting it through the door so they can get paid. Yeah, but they know from my previous record with them, because they always take notes as to how the interaction went. And of course, every time they've had nothing from me. They've had no interaction. I don't stand there arguing with them. I can't be bothered to argue with them. Yeah, that's too much energy, and they're not getting my energy. Okay, they're getting as little energy from me as possible. So generally, I will just turn around to I will open the door. Now, always answer the door. Lots of people say, don't answer the door, pretend you're out. Yeah. When I say answer the door, that doesn't mean you have to physically open the door if you don't want to. You can do it through a window, you could do it through a closed door. Yeah, but respond to them and just let them know, no thank you, not interested. And that's it. That's it. It takes me about 5 seconds maximum. If it's taken me more than 15 to 30 seconds, I've not done my job properly. Okay? So, as I say, they've got used to it now. Yeah, they always make a record, so they know what they're dealing with next time, or the next enforcement agents. They've got to send a report back to the council, in this case, to say what happened, why they haven't come back with any money. So they'll either put something like no tangible assets, or would not communicate, aggressive, all kinds of things that they'll put down. Or they'll put down a vulnerable person. Now, I've no doubt they probably put that down for me once before, simply because on one occasion, and this is what I recommend people who might have trouble speaking with them to do, is to just stare at them. Stare blankly, wide-eyed and just like a nutter, okay? Stare into their eyes whilst holding the door, only do it through a small gap. Stare into their eyes and then wait for a few seconds. They'll be like, are you all right? Do you need medicine? Do you need help? All that sort of cocky bullshit that they come up with. And you just close the door, but follow it with your eyes and close it. Now they're going to write vulnerable, yeah? And if they write that on your paperwork, excellent, that's a result. Because now it's illegal for them to come and harass you for money, for an outstanding debt. Okay, so being marked down as vulnerable is a good thing. Okay, as I say, they're relying upon your fear of them. They're just a person in fancy dress. Okay, this is fancy dress. All this that I'm wearing, right? Now I don't wear this all the time, the tactical vest, only in an official capacity, if I'm attending, for example, a property or something, or doing a talk. But I do wear this t-shirt, this polo shirt rather, and these blue trousers. Now I've got various pairs of them, they're not the same ones every time, so panic not. What I'm saying is that smell is not me. Okay, I'm just making that clear. Now I do that because it's a psychological war I'm fighting, right? And you need psychology to fight it. Yeah, this is all psychology. Member of the public sees that, they think authority. Now, my house, at the end of my garden, there's a big 6-foot fence, and the other side of it is a council car park. I live right next to the high street. So when I walk around to go into the high street, I have to walk through the car park. And of course, I'm either wearing the t-shirt in good weather, polo shirt, or my jacket over there, which is a high-vis black, navy blue bomber jacket with all the branding on it. And many times, I say many times, 3 or 4 times, I've had people who have just parked there to quickly pop to the bank or to the shop, so they didn't want to get a ticket. And when they've gone walking from their car and they see me coming around the corner, they think, oh God, I better go back and get a ticket. So I've had to stop these people before and say, I don't work for the council, just so you know. And they're like, oh, right, sorry, I thought you did. I said, no, go to the bank, don't pay them. So it works. It's a clever psychological trick, and it works on you all the time, with the police, with bailiffs, with security, with train guards, anybody dressed authoritative. You have this inbuilt innate fear of. But as I say, fear is just fear of the unknown. Yeah? You don't know the outcome, so therefore you fear, and therefore you will always assume the worst case scenario. Okay, they're going to do this to me, they're going to do that to me, I'm going to get arrested, they're going to take my stuff. Yeah. But it's an irrational fear. Okay, just like any irrational fear, and there's lots of irrational fears. Yeah, I have an irrational fear of feet. Can't stand feet, ironically. And anything, if I see foot come up on the telly, I'm like, oh, God, no, oh, no, thank you, send shudders down my spine. Now, that's an irrational fear. Wants to be scared of the feet. Mind you probably should see my feet before you answer that. But there's many irrational fears. Yeah? The most common, of course, is arachnophobia, spiders. Who here suffers with arachnophobia? So, how much would you say how scared of you of spiders?
So much screaming fear.
Screaming fear. Excellent. What's your name, sorry?
Mary.
Mary. Nice to meet you, Mary. Do me a favour, Mary. Can you stand up for me? Please. Just stand up. Don't worry. You're no risk. Right. Just have a look around. Can you see any spiders? No? So, on a scale of 0 to 10, yeah, with 0 being not currently anxious about spiders at all, and 10 being a Mary-shaped hole in that door, right? What would you say you're at the moment?
Like
0. Brilliant. Now, what if I was to show you a picture of my pet spider? I've got a picture right here of my pet spider, right, that I took and printed out. And I'm going to show it to you. Ready?
That's just a picture. He's a fairy little man.
He's a fairy little man. So seeing a picture, yeah, you're this close to a creepy crawly with 8 legs. How anxious would you say you are now?
Like an actual spider.
An actual spider.
I'd run and I'd get my mum to kill it.
Right, so the reason I'm holding up a picture of my spider is because I brought him here tonight, with me. Don't worry, you're not in any. You don't have to worry at all. Stay right there.
No way. No.
Keep him in his container. Keep him right there.
Is that big?
Right, so I've got a big box because it has to be big enough to put a terrarium in it, which is what you generally keep a spider in. Now, I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to get this spider out on my hand.
No.
What scale are you on now?
Like, I'm going to go back to the car.
So 0 to 10, what would you say?
10.
10? But you haven't even seen it yet.
There's a spider in there.
There is a spider in there. This particular spider, its Latin name is Magna Saginati arania. Okay? Don't panic, he can't jump. Okay? If you do see him move, you might just see his legs move as he's settling, but don't panic. Okay? I'm not going to bring him close to you. Don't worry, I'll stay right. He will stay right here. Okay? Now, I am going to put the glove on just because I'm going in a dark box. It's very light. Suddenly, and a big hand coming towards you, I'm going to take him out. So, okay? Don't panic. As I say, he can't jump or anything like that. Bear with me. Right. Oh, I've just got to get it on my hand. Bear with me. I'm just using it to nudge it. Okay, you ready to see it? Good. Here we go. There's my spider. Now, Mary, did I lie to you? Didn't I? What about the picture I showed? Right, so what I said was, I've got a picture right here that I took last night of my spider. Which I have. I didn't say it was that one that I showed you. I said I've got a picture here of the spider. Right? That's in that box. I also said its Latin name was Magna Sagitati Aranea, which is just Latin for large stuffed spider. So, now, the reason I did that, right, was to show that I can control your irrational fear, just using words and certain actions, and yet you were never in any danger, was you? But the words I used, right, and the impression I gave you, yeah, made you think I'm about to get a real live spider. I've seen a picture of a real live spider on a hand. That was just a picture I got off Google. But my point to that is, this is exactly what enforcement agents will do to you, okay? It's exactly what they'll do to you. They'll make you believe that they've got a warrant of entry, yeah? Now, they may well have a warrant of entry. I've got a warrant of entry here. There it is. Warrant of entry. What about that is not a warrant of entry? It says it on it. I didn't say it was from the court, did I? I just said I've got a warrant of entry. Right? I've got the authority, because I've just given myself the authority to enforce that warrant of entry. Right? Doesn't mean anything. Yeah? Got taking control of goods order here as well. I gave the authority. Now, with these enforcement agents, their authority is given to them by the council, but the council don't have any authority. They don't carry the authority of the courts, so why are they issuing summonses to magistrates' courts for non-payment of council tax? That doesn't come from the court, okay? They use a magistrate's court because they can't use a county court. And the reason they can't use a county court is simple. County courts only deal with breaches of contract. And of course, as we know, council tax, there is no contract. So what they do is they hire the magistrate's court, just like you or I could. Yeah? I could, if I was making a movie and I needed a courtroom, I can hire the court privately for the day or for a certain amount of time. Right? So they hire the magistrate's court because you think, well, hang on, magistrates, that's a criminal court. I'm committing a criminal offence. But I can tell you now, nobody has ever gone to prison for non-payment of council tax. I'm not saying nobody's ever gone to court for non-payment and ended up in prison. If they have, it's because of what they said to the judge that created a contempt of court. And they were given 28 days in prison for a contempt of court, not for council tax. So, of course, when the media report it, they say that man goes to prison or woman goes to prison for not paying her council tax, which is very misleading. Yeah. Now, again, it's not a complete lie, it's just a play on their words. Yeah. She did go to court for not paying the council tax and went to prison. It happened when council tax was first introduced. Or allegedly happened, whether we believe it or not, who knows, you know. But an old woman, yeah, a pensioner, she was sentenced to 28 days. It was widely publicised in the media just after council tax was, or community charge as it was known back then, was created and rolled out. And that was to make people think, well, hang on, if they're going to send this 82-year-old, I think, something like that, 82-year-old woman to prison, yeah, then I've got no chance. So I better just pay. Yeah, I better just pay. Now, of course, these letters that they send out, you notice there's a lot of red there, yeah? And that's colour psychology. That denotes danger, right? So they're trying to trigger you. When I asked you to stand up, that was to trigger your anxiety, right? Because suddenly you're the only one standing up, right? What bailiffs will do, I'm going to call them bailiffs even though they're not bailiffs, they're enforcement agents. What they'll do is on your door, suddenly panic, yeah? And when you panic, of course you're vulnerable. You don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, you've got to think quick, you've got to act quick, right? So that's why they'll do that. They'll bang on your door to make you anxious, to make you think, oh my God, what's going on, what's happening, right? They've already now got you vulnerable. And all they have to do is use some clever wording, yeah, and get you even more vulnerable, and get you even more anxious, you know, and get your anxiety score up to 10, for example, right? Just using words and actions. Now, of course, I've used actions, I put the glove on just to make you think, oh God, he might bite, you know, even he's worried, yeah? But again, it was never in any danger at all, yeah? If you'd have known it was a stuffed toy, would it ever gone above 0? No, exactly. So, it's an act, okay? And that's all these people are doing. They're acting. Yeah, they're putting on a costume and they're coming out and they're doing some spiel that they're being told to do, a script. Yeah, now I get asked a lot, do they know that what they're doing is wrong and illegal and unlawful? In some cases, I believe yes. Yeah, but in many cases, no, I don't think so. As much as the people who are suckered in by them don't realise that actually they've got no power, they're third-party interlopers, you can just say, you don't have to speak to them. Same with TV licence. I knew somebody who got done by TV licensing because she stood there at the door and gave her details because she felt she had to. She felt frozen to the spot, you know, like she couldn't just close the door. I never correspond with these people by letter. I did once with text message, you know, because there's some youngsters here, or at least one. I'm not going to use the language I use, but I ended it with ready when you are, right? They never come round. They never bothered. Because they know, as I say, they'll get nowhere with me. So you might have to go through it, yeah, confidently, in order to gain even more confidence, right? And to deal with them by just saying, don't get into arguments about wetting signatures. None of that matters. It goes over their head. If anything, you're doing them a favour because you're engaging with them, right? You're engaging with them. When you engage with them, then they feel they've got more power. Also, it's more likely you will prod their ego somewhat. And if you start prodding egos, well, then you're going to have a battle on your hands. So there's no point in arguing with them, okay? And as a peace officer, as Peace Officers UK, we are now a community interest company. We're registered as a company. Yeah, we don't charge for our services at all. None of us get paid, and it is a principle within Peace Officers UK that we would never get paid, including myself as the founder. Okay, it shouldn't be about money. It should be about waking up enough people to stand up and let these thugs know you're not affecting me, you're not making me anxious. I'm going to go back to my dinner in a second, so off you pop. So just stand up to them. That's all you have to do, is stand up to them confidently and just say, no thank you, not interested, or do the eyes. And freak them right out. Yeah. So the police are not much different, okay? They're not educated in the law. If they were, if they knew the law, then they'd probably be barristers or solicitors because they earn better money, okay? So, yes.
Can I ask you a question? You said
Of course.
you registered Peace Officers UK.
Yeah,
Could you explain why you registered that instance?
absolutely. Yeah. I get sidetracked a lot, so well done for bringing me back to that. Right, so I registered it as a company, right, because we are operating within the matrix, okay? Now, I know a lot of people think, well, hang on, we've just learned about common law, yeah, and being sovereign citizens. But the trouble is, society as it stands, the matrix, doesn't acknowledge it, right? So you're shouting into a void, yeah, when you're trying to tell them that you are a living being. Yeah, well, they're dead entities, and the living and the dead can't communicate with each other. So if you communicate with them, you're by default declaring yourself as a dead entity. It doesn't matter what words are coming out of your mouth. Yeah, in fact, the words that are coming out of your mouth is a language that was given to you by them. Yeah, and that language, you're tricked every time into being in agreeance and giving your consent, you know, including a good one is I do not consent. You know, you think that means I have no wish to contract with you or anything like that. I don't agree. That's what you think. But in a court of law, it's different because it's a different language. Same words, just a different language. Right, so I do not consent in a court. In legalese, I is spelt or can be heard because after all it is a hearing, and that is the thing about the language of legalese. It's about how it's heard, not how it's intended, right? So that's why the judge hears a case, and he can hear whatever he wants to hear, which is why when you read legalese, you'll think, why is that so confusing? Why have they put that there and here, there, onto, all that sort of, you know, nonsense. It's to make sure that the judge hears it in a very specific manner, a very specific way. But of course, you're not educated on legalese, so you'll say things like, I do not consent to a contract. What you're actually saying is I, A-Y-E, equals yes. Do sounds like due, which equals O. Yeah? Not can be spelt with a K, which means bound by. Right? So you're saying, yes, I owe this, I am bound by it, and I consent. And that's the thing about their language. It's all trickery. So, as I say, when you're operating within the matrix, and we're all forced to, you can't be completely sovereign beings. It's now, I would say, we're too long in the tooth, right? Because we all live in our straw man's house, our legal fiction. Yeah, we all, you know, this phone that I've got up here recorded belongs to my straw man. Doesn't belong to me as a sovereign living being. My straw man bought it with my straw man's bank account, with my straw man's birth certificate, you know? So I need to protect my straw man in that case, and I also need to protect other people's straw man. But the trouble is, before I registered as a company, I could turn up to a property and they could dismiss me because I'm just a lay person, okay? A busybody, somebody, a friend, somebody, you know, just trying to take over, butt in, that kind of thing. Now we're an official company, they can't do that. You see, that changes the dynamic completely. Yeah. So now it's a corporation being the enforcement agents versus a corporation being me. or any one of my peace officers, right? We operate as a corporation, we're a registered company, they now have to take us seriously. And of course, our job, our duty is not to argue with anyone. Our duty is to trespass people. That's our main thing that we do, is trespass them, yeah? And don't let them gain entry or take anything, right? So, of course, it helps if you've got a uniform, because they are also triggered by it. The police, especially. Police are trained over and over and over, right, with their programming to protect authoritarian-looking uniforms, right? So they're at kind of loggerheads. They're kind of, well, what do we do? Computer says yes, no, yes, no. I don't know what to do, right? So they're more likely now to step back, right, and say this is a civil matter, it's a dispute between two corporations, nothing to do with us. No, thank you, right? Of course, it helps to quote legislation at them, and I would highly recommend you all learning the Section 26 of the Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015, especially subsection 4, and I'll quote it to you. Subsection 4 provides that a police constable exercises the powers and privileges of a constable improperly if the exercise of a power or privilege is for the purpose of achieving a benefit to the officer or a benefit or detriment for another person, and that a reasonable person would not expect that power or privilege to be exercised for the purpose of achieving that benefit or detriment. Now, it took me about an hour to learn it, okay, but it was an hour well spent, yeah, because when a police officer hears me quote that to him, right, he's going to assume, well, that's not all he knows, yeah. I couldn't quote that. They can't even quote their oath. I can quote their oath. I do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will well and truly serve the King and the officer constable with fairness, integrity, diligence and impartiality, upholding fundamental human rights and according equal respect to all people, and that I will, to the best of my power, cause the peace to be kept and preserved, and prevent all offences against people and property, and that, while I continue to hold the said office, I will, to the best of my skill and knowledge, discharge all the duties thereof faithfully according to law. Now, not a single police officer in the land I have ever heard being able to quote even half a sentence of that, okay? If you learn it, again, it took me about an hour, another hour well spent, right? You're quoting Section 26 word for word, verbatim, and their oath, and all the protections for a civilian, a person, a legal fiction, are in there, okay? It changed back in, I think it was 2018 or 2019, to a new oath, to the current oath that I've just read. Before that, it referred to us as subjects of the crown, but now we're referred to as the people. And it states in there that they must protect against all offences against people and property, yeah? Or prevent all offences against people and property. So they are duty bound by law to follow that oath. And because it's an oath, the police attestation is an oath, yeah, it's a criminal offence for them to act outside of it. Now, if you know their oath, then you can pull them up on all kinds of things. So when you say to them, for example, can you please identify yourself? Yeah, first of all, I would say that when you do communicate with them, do it calm, relaxed, with a kind of half-cocked smile on your face, like you are confident, yeah, and comfortable in the situation, and you have knowledge, and you're about to impart that knowledge upon them, right? So when you ask them to identify themselves, and they go, it's on there, yeah, it's written on there. Well, they haven't accorded equal respect to all people, okay, because they wouldn't address themselves like that to a judge, a magistrate, a justice of the peace, solicitor, defence barrister, prosecutor, their superior officers, politicians, right? But they've got to treat everybody the same, right? So that you can pull them up on that. and you can quote the part that is relevant, according equal respect to all people. Now, as I say, you've made them look like a bit of a fool because they haven't accorded you, they haven't been professional. Always, when you interact with these people, record. Okay, don't feel shy about holding up a phone. Don't worry about it. They're wearing an overt camera, much like this one. So you're perfectly entitled to record, and you will find actually they will attempt to put on their best behaviour. Okay, because now we've got evidence. Yeah, you'll certainly make them feel uncomfortable. Okay, that they're being filmed, and that therefore they couldn't deny saying certain things in a court. So always record your interactions with enforcement agents and police. Normally what will happen is police will probably be called, they'll have a look at what the enforcement agents are calling a warrant or a legitimate taking control of goods order, that kind of thing. And they'll usually turn around and say, well, we're happy he's got the correct paperwork. To which your response should be, what qualifies you to ascertain the provenance of legal documents? And they'll probably go, what? What do you mean? Because, as I say, they're uneducated. And so you explain to them, if they have no legal qualifications, then again, they failed on their oath, okay? Because clearly it states in that oath to apply diligence. Yeah? Diligence would be get on their radio, speak to their inspector or their legal department and find out the requirements. Also to find out whether it can be enforced by force. Now, when there's only three things that a court can order a bailiff, an actual court bailiff, to use force for. And that is criminal court fines, stamp duty and income tax. Now, of course, if a genuine warrant is issued by the court, a genuine warrant cannot be issued until it's had its full due process, okay? And this is why these companies, these corporations, they're getting fraudulent documents. It's because it's quicker, it's easier, and it costs them probably about 30 quid instead of potentially 5 to 10 grand, okay, to get it before a court, which could take months, if not years, to get before a judge, right? So instead, they've got the other option of paying around 30 or 40 quid and getting this document that states that the county court have given the authority, or rather it will say something like the county court civic business centre or something similar, right? Have given the authority to enforce this, warrant of entry or taking control of goods order. But I've shown you a warrant of entry and a taking control of goods order that I printed out and I gave authority. Doesn't mean it carries any weight in law. It just means that somebody is given the authority. That's it. But have they got the authority to give that authority is the question. And of course, when it comes to places like Northampton Business Centre, County Court Business Centre, there's nobody legally trained in that building, okay? There is no courtroom at the Northampton Civic Business Centre. It's all just data inputters that are processing applications. And of course, the computer says yes every time. As long as they've ticked the right boxes, the computer says yes, right? Well, that's not how a lawful warrant is issued. A lawful warrant, first of all, it must have a signature. Now, in this day and age, a digital signature is deemed to be acceptable, okay? However, it has to be a certified digital signature. So using a service such as DocuSign or VeriSign or something like that, which confirms that the person who's taking liability, who's given their authority, has got the authority and has definitely signed that document, albeit not in wet ink. Now, it used to be the case that it could only be wet ink, but the Electronic Communications Act, of course, I can't remember the year of that now, changed all that and allowed for them to use digital signatures. However, with a digital signature, it would be the name of the person, and also it would have some kind of serial number and the name of the certifiers. So, for example, Davey Stewart, DocuSign number 16892. Yeah, has to have a number where then you can verify through DocuSign that an actual person signed it digitally. Now, the reason it has to be signed is because somebody has to have applied their mind to the evidence placed before them. Okay, the evidence that they have the authority to go either after the debt or to enter the property. Now, warrant of entry is normally only issued, these fake warrant of entry, should I say, are usually only issued for energy companies where people have said they've changed their meters, which is why I always say to people, don't change your meters, no point, okay? Just change your contract status, that's it. Just say, no, I don't wish to contract with you anymore or at all. Give me a final bill and then settle the final bill with a promissory note. And then, now, they won't accept that, of course, they won't take that. They'll say, no, we insist, but as I said, it doesn't matter what they say, it only matters what the law says. And then it's down to you to follow it through and take action against them in the county court for fraud, for example, harassment. Because at the end of the day, you want to be the claimant and not the respondent, because favour is always shown to the claimant as opposed to the respondent. So if you've ever taken it to court, and I know you said earlier you took it to court and the judge dismissed your promissory note, said no, don't accept that, but I would fully expect that with a county court, and as I suggested, you need to escalate it then to the High Court. The fact is, any process is going to come with some kind of fight, okay? Some legal fight. It's how you fight that matters, okay? As I say, if they're insisting, so take for example my situation, I haven't paid for gas and electric in over 3 years since my former company, Green Energy, went down the pan. I said my former company, but my supplier went down the pan. Went into administration a few years ago. And then I was allegedly allocated Shell Energy by Ofgem. Well, I immediately responded to their email welcoming me by saying, no thanks, don't wish to contract, not interested. And they responded back, oh, we're very sorry to hear that, but however, we've been allocated. I said, I don't care, no thank you, don't wish to contract with you, not now, not ever, right? And they responded again saying, well, we're very sorry to hear that, we do hope you change your mind. However, once your account has been set up, then you, of course, can use a switching service and switch to another supplier. And so I sent a longer email that said, no thank you, don't wish to contract. Any attempt to set up an account in my name will be an act of fraud, right? Now, as I say, it's currently, they reckon I owe them about £12,000, just over £12,000. They're affecting my credit record, but I don't care about my credit record, you know. I don't use my credit record anyway, I have no need to. So, however, I am going to take action when I get the opportunity, because obviously these days running the company and responding to emails, messages, phone calls every single day. It's a 7-day-a-week job, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. because that's the hours they operate. I get very little, if any, time normally to do these things. So I will at some point set aside a day where I just switch my phone to do not disturb and then crack on and go ahead with taking action against them in the county court for affecting my credit record, for one, for harassment, for fraudulently setting up an account in my name. All of these they are liable for. And of course, if I'm the claimant, they can't rebut that because they did all those things. Right? Now, if you're in a similar situation, they'll probably tell you their argument would be, oh, no, you're on a deemed contract. Now, I don't know if anyone knows what a deemed contract is, but I'll explain. A deemed contract is where, let's say you just bought a new property or you're about to move in to your new home. You walk in through the front door, very first time, you switch the light on. Okay? You're using the service. They deemed you to have any electricity that's used since the last person left. It's deemed to be the new tenants or owners. However, what that is for is so that when you do contact them and say, oh, I'd like to set up an account, they can add that to the contract. Okay, they can add the deemed period into the contract. However, if you say to them, I don't wish to contract, I never have wished to contract, there's nothing they can do. Okay, all they will do is keep harassing you, keep sending you messages, get companies to ring you up and so on and so forth. I had one called MIL Collections ring me up and they said to me, oh, could you just confirm your full name for me and the first line of your address? And I said, no. And they said, but we can't talk to you if you don't. And I said, well, what are you ringing me for then? Do you not understand how a phone works? Yeah. I said, if you can't speak to me, stop bloody ringing me. And they hung up the phone and never called back. Right? So now I just get an email every month saying, you now owe this amount. You now owe this amount. You now owe this amount. But I will make them pay for it. Yeah, I will make them pay for it. The longer it goes on, the longer the more I should get. Let's say. So it's about taking action against them. And as I say, everything will come with a fight. Okay. There's never going to be a situation where you say, right, I'm going to pay off my mortgage with a promissory note. There you go. And they go, oh, that's brilliant. Thanks very much. You now owe zero. Here's the deeds to your house. Yeah. They're never going to do that because they're going to go, oh, what the hell? What? You can't do that. We do that. You don't do that. No. We don't accept it. So it's not legal tender. Not legal tender. There we go. Not legal tender. Well, neither is a debit card, a bank transfer, a standing order, direct debit, a cheque, a postal order. None of them are legal tender. Legal tender, lots of people believe legal tender means tender that can be legally accepted, the only sort of form of payment that can be legally acceptable, right? However, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means Bank of England banknotes and Royal Minted coins. Scottish notes, they're not legal tender. They're currency, yeah, and they're accepted, and they're just promissory notes, right? But they're not legal tender because they're not Bank of England promissory notes. Yeah? And that's all Bank of England banknotes are, is promissory notes. I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £20. But you can issue them too, right? Because they're doing it using you as security. When you get your mortgage or your loan, what they do is they get you to sign a promissory note, but they'll call it a loan note or a loan agreement or a mortgage agreement, right? But what it is a mortgage note, a promissory note. It's got exactly the same details as I have on my promissory notes, which is the name of the person taking out the loan, the amount owed, the amount of interest applied, when it becomes payable, each instalment becomes payable, and then you sign it, and by signing it, you give it value, right? But what you've done is you've created a cash note, let's say for £10,000 for a loan, right? And that cash note, £10,000 note, you've gifted it to them. Yeah? You've said, there you go, you can have that. Now, can I borrow £10,000 back, please? And I'll pay you back. And they'll go, yeah, okay, hold on a minute. We've just got to add this to our books and then debit it from our books and add it to your account. So you lent yourself the money. They didn't lend you a penny. Didn't cost them a penny. Well, cost them probably about 3 or 4 pence for the paper, the ink, and the time taken to print it. But they didn't create the money, you did. Yeah? And what they don't want you to know is that you can create money to pay off any already established debt. Now, you can't use it to go into your local shop or your local supermarket and buy all your shopping with it because there's no established debt, you see, and that's the important factor. If there is a debt, right, it has to be accepted as a payment. Okay, it's the Bills of Exchange Act 1882. It's an unconditional promise to pay certain in cash. That's what it says in the Bills of Exchange Act 1882 Part 4, okay, which defines the promissory note. Now, the promissory note I created looks like that. And I put a little holographic sticker on my little round one, which just says original on it. Okay? Now, this promissory note, it's no different than a mortgage note or a loan agreement. No different. You put the name, the address, where it's created, the amount in words so that the numbers can't be changed. And you put your name, date of birth to secure it to your birth trust. Hereby promise to pay, and you put the holder, the name of the company you're paying. Leave my glasses on. Can't remember exactly what it says. Too busy learning bloody police oaths and shit. Right, so here we go. Hereby promise to pay holder the full amount on this note for value received. The payment will be made in monthly instalments of, and you put a monthly instalment on the, I would put, first day of every consecutive month until the obligation has been fulfilled. The payment can be obtained by the holder at, and then you put your address, right? Now, what you're saying there is that's a cash note. Once it's filled out, right, there's 3 elements to a promissory note, 3 fundamental elements that have to be satisfied for it to be legally become a negotiable instrument. The first is creation. Well, I've clearly created it, right? I fill it out, it's been created, right? The second is endorsement, so signing it, sign and dating it, right? And the third is delivery. That's it. Once it's been delivered, it's been deemed to be accepted. And in fact, in the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, chapters 61, 45 and 46, it defines acceptance. It's at the top of the list, you can see. It defines acceptance as acceptance by delivery or notification. So once it's been delivered, it's been accepted. Now, they, of course, think that accepted means it could be declined, it could be refused. That's not true. It can't be, because once it's been delivered, this now is a cash note. Okay? No different than a bank note. It's a cash note, and it's always going to be worth its full face in value until it's been satisfied. Right? So if that was £10,000, let's say, for example, that note was for, and you are paying a certain amount each month, say £100 each month, and they came to collect it from the address you put on there, which of course they won't because, you know, it's not financially viable to do so. It will cost them more, in other words, to come and collect £100 than it would be to get the value of £100, right, each month. So, and of course they have to come with the original promissory note, not photocopy. That's why the holographic sticker's on there, because it can't be a photocopy. Just like you can't go into Sainsbury's and buy your shopping with a photocopy of a £20 note. Yeah, has to be the original note exchanged. So they have to bring the original note to you, to your address, and you will satisfy the monthly instalment, right? As I say, they don't want to do that because they want it all done digitally, so they don't have to do anything. Yes?
A couple of issues about the promissory note.
Yeah.
On a Bank of England promissory note, there's no arrangement that the Bank of England is going to pay you 10 pence a week for a £10 note, for instance.
Yeah.
So is it entirely necessary? I tried a promissory note once without including that arrangement, all the other things, my address, my signature, all the other things.
Yeah.
But what I was of the understanding was, if I produce a duplicate, in fact what I normally do, say it's £100, I do a promissory note for £95, and
You put a £5 note on it.
£5 note which I laminate in a lamination that they can take it out actually and use it if they wanted to. And I then produce a £100 promissory note which I retain, and in the unlikely event that they were to contact me with their £95 promissory note, I would give them the £100 promissory note. There you are, all settled. And we play that yo-yo game indefinitely.
Yeah. Just like the Bank of England would if you took a £20 promissory note of theirs to them and said, I'd like my sum of £20, please, they'll give you two £10 notes.
Okay, so that's the theory. Do you say that's watertight?
Right, I would say it's a complete waste of time to put the fiver on there, okay? It's not necessary. Bills of Exchange Act clearly states what acceptance is. So the reason why somebody would laminate a £5 note is to say, well, if you accept that, you also accept that at the same time. But they can't refuse your promissory note anyway, right? So what they say is irrelevant, yeah? When they turn around to you and say, we don't accept promissory notes, well, that's a lie for starters, because in order for you to have the loan agreement in the first place, or mortgage agreement, whatever, right, they'd have to have accepted a promissory note with your signature on it.
Okay, one follow-on from that. I've only used the promissory note so far with a parking fine, right? Now, they actually returned it to me, and I think their justification was returning it to me was because the debt hadn't actually been established. The parking fine hadn't been established. Unless they take it to court, they're at perfect liberty to return the promissory note and not accept it as payment because, as you say, the contract hasn't yet been made.
Right, so if they're making a claim against you, right, even whether it's through the courts or not, so they're claiming to you that you owe this money, right, then they're claiming there's an outstanding debt, okay? Just because it hasn't gone to court doesn't matter, okay? It's their claim that they are making, which is you owe us this amount, yeah? In which case, well, there you go, here's a cash note. It's defined as to be treated as cash by Lord Denning in Fielding and Platt Limited versus Salim Najjar, 1969. And he declared, we have repeatedly said in this court that a bill of exchange or promissory note is to be treated as cash. Now, it's not the necessary, well, I mean, it is, you know, the fact that he said it's to be treated as cash. But the most important part about that statement is the word repeatedly, okay? Because that suggests it's often been debated in the High Court, and every single time without fail, they've declared it as cash, right? So that, to me, is the most important element that I picked out of that statement, rather than the just to be treated as cash. The Bills of Exchange Act declares it as a negotiable instrument upon those three elements, as I said, so creation, endorsement, and delivery. Once you've completed them, it's like it has a life, a value, yeah? And, of course, they don't need to collect on it. They have a cash note, yeah? Doesn't matter that they, yeah, but you haven't given us the money. Yeah, but I have. There it is, yeah? That is the money, yeah? You can exchange it for your cash, yeah, or the sum of whatever, right, by coming to me with that promissory note, yeah? So send one of your agents, which of course you don't have anymore, you'd have to use an outside agency to come and collect, which would cost you more than 50 to 100 quid, whatever the payment is you've said the payment schedule is. They would have to trust that agent with that cash note. Yeah, they would have to trust that they don't drop it in a puddle or destroy it somehow, yeah, or lose it, yeah, because then they've got no claim. They can't collect the next payment, right? So it doesn't matter. I mean, I think people spend far too much time worrying about, well, how do we get them to accept it? Yeah, they're never going to accept it. The only way to get them to accept it is by taking action against them in court if they harass you for not accepting it. And as I say, county court judges, right, district judges and deputy district judges, they're useless. Yeah? They haven't got the High Court knowledge. You need to get it to the High Court, but you might have to go through the county court first. And don't think, if you lose, don't think, oh, that's it, I've lost. Yeah? It's like any fight. If you get knocked down, you get back up and you carry on fighting. Yeah? And then you stand a chance of winning. If you stay laying down, you've lost. Yeah? The only time you lose a fight is when you decide you've given up. When you decide, I've had enough, that's it. Right? Well, now you've lost. Yeah?
Has anybody ever paid court fees with a promissory note?
I mean, I don't know of anyone personally. I don't know. The trouble is, you see, I often get people say to me, well, where's the evidence? I've Googled it, yeah, and I can't find anywhere that says, you know, that it worked, yeah. Well, did you find anything that said it didn't work? Well, no. There you go then. I guarantee you, if it didn't work, right, it would be everywhere, right? They would be telling you, oh, man tries to pay with a promissory note and fails, yeah? And that'll be everywhere to stop people from doing it. Instead, they know they've got to accept them, but they're hoping you don't know enough. They're hoping you've just come to a talk and learnt about it, or gone onto YouTube, and so you don't have confidence in it. And if you don't have confidence in it, then they can rattle you, yeah? They can tell you all kinds of crap. Yeah, they're not obliged to tell you the truth. They're not under oath. In a court, it's a bit different. They do have to take an oath before they make any statements, right? Or take the attestation. So it doesn't matter what they say. And I mean, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, is there any way of dealing with this without going to court?" No, use the courts. Use the courts. That's where you get your results. Yeah, if you put your case properly and well enough, that's where you'll get your results. Yeah, standing there arguing with them or arguing with them over the phone or email or whatever, it's pointless, because they're always going to say, no, not interested, no. Yeah, so you do the same to them. When they say, you still owe us money, no, not interested. Yeah, just turn it back on them. And they go, well, we'll take you to court. Excellent, I'll see you there. Or take them to court, as I say, because you're in a better advantageous position where you're now the claimant and they're the respondent. If they don't turn up to court, you get the default judgment in your favour. If they fail to rebut it, then you get the default, you get the judgment in your favour. If it goes against you, well then you just didn't put your case properly or well enough, or you were unlucky to have a judge that didn't know about promissory notes and didn't understand it because he's never had to study it, right? Lord Denning stated, we have repeatedly said in this court, so it's often being debated in the court. And if it's often being debated in the court, where's all the newspaper reports of all those times? It's been hidden, right? It's been suppressed. And it's quite easy to do, yeah? Now, I do have an image. In fact, if you go onto the Peace Officers UK Telegram channel and look at the files, you'll see the image there somewhere, newspaper cutting. Man settles mortgage with promissory note, right? And it was a hearing that was it was basically, it was like a directions hearing type of thing to see if it can go to court, can go to trial. And the judge at the end of it said to the bank, I believe he's got a good case. Yeah, so you might want to consider your now right? States it in the article, as I say, if you look on the Telegram group. Now, the thing is, the reporter was supposed to follow that up, right? This was back in 2015. Supposed to follow it up, right, with what happened at the next stage. However, there's no story anywhere. Now, I did manage to track him down on what was then Twitter, right, and discovered that actually many thousands of people had tracked him down to Twitter and had all asked him the same question as I was asking: what happened? What happened next? He's never responded to anybody, right? That suggests to me that when he was in court reporting on it and the bank lost their case, yeah, the bank, as he's leaving the court, went up to him and said, how much to drop that story? Yeah, how much do we owe you? And if he said, no, I can't be bought, okay, what newspaper are you from? No worries. Your boss is at one of our lodges, yeah, our Freemason lodges, so we'll get the story dropped one way or another. Or they'll get a super injunction out, right? They'll get a super injunction because they're rich corporations, greedy corporations that can afford to do that, right? So that's why you won't see these stories followed through to the end in the media, because I don't want you to know it, yeah? But they're happening all the time. They're happening all the time. In fact, they're happening an awful lot more now. I produce one and put it out there for everyone to use, you know, because now there's thousands of them. So much so, I got contacted last year by somebody wanting my advice, allegedly, about promissory notes and wanted me to advise them, you know, tell them all about it. Trouble is, they'd sent it through their work email server, which was a company called Walker Morris, right, who are a financial law firm working for the financial industry, right? So I advised them to speak to one of their colleagues who should be able to fill them in with the details, yeah, and I never heard anything back from them. I also got contacted by Lead Stories. Anybody heard of Lead Stories? They're the so-called Facebook fact checkers, right? They're based in New York. They contacted me, want to know all about Peace Officers UK. What do we do? What, who are you? What, you know, we're seeing you at protests and hearing about you. What? So I didn't respond to that one. You know, wouldn't give them time of day. But why are they so interested in what I'm teaching people? Why are they that bothered if there's no weight to them at all? Yeah? If there's no weight to promissory notes, yeah, then why would they instruct a financial law firm to contact me and try and get, and I know what they were trying to do, trying to get me to give them legal advice, yeah, as an unqualified legal professional, right? And how I always deal with that is when I advise people, I assume it's my situation. I'll tell you what I would do in that situation. And if you want to choose to do the same, well, then I can't stop you, you know. So it's a bit like a disclaimer in a sense. But they're certainly nervous about it because suddenly, since the the end of 2022, many thousands of these notes have suddenly hit the market. Yeah, the banks and the credit card companies and all these lenders, you know. Now, why are they so bothered? Yeah, why have they asked about, well, you know, they've got that, they can put it on their books. Yeah, they've got now something which under fractional reserve banking regulations means they can use as a 10% security to lend up to 9 times the value of that note. Right, so they can now lend for a £10,000 promissory note. They can lend out £90,000 just based on that £10,000. Right, promises to pay. Yeah, using that as security. So why are they that bothered? Well, because they want you as a debt slave. Yeah, you need to be their debt slave for them to have any kind of power or authority over you. Yeah, or to be able to tap into your fears. Pay up or we'll take you home. Do this or else. We'll come and take your car. We'll come and take all your goods. We'll take your kids' Christmas presents. You know, they'll tell you all kinds of crap. All you've got to do is stand up to these people. Yeah, if you want to get them off your back, pay it with a promissory note, and then when they continue to harass you, and continue to claim that you owe them this money, well, they're now making a fraudulent claim because you've settled it, right? They're making a fraudulent claim, so take a claim out against them. Go to the county, well, you don't have to physically go to the county court to start the claim. You just do it money claim online for the court service, and you know, charge them a few grand for it, right? Up to £10,000, because it has to be below £10,000 for it to go into a small claims court. So it's no good charging them, you know, like a bailiff £50,000 or £250,000 for trespassing, because you've got no chance of getting that from them. But always take them to court if you've got the time. If you're not like me, take them to court. Yes, my love.
If you go for that, I'm going to pay my fine to the court today in a promissory note. If they don't accept, if I go county court, if they're going to refuse again.
Right, so
To the High Court.
yeah, escalate it to the High Court, I would say. Escalate it to the High Court, because as I say, that's where the case law is made, in the High Court. That's where Lord Denning's case law is, that defines it as cash. You've got the legislation there that defines it as a negotiable instrument, just like a banknote, which is also a negotiable instrument. It can be passed from person to person. Yeah, you could, you know, I would, if it was me, I would escalate it to the High Court on the basis that you've settled it, and if they don't accept that, then take it to the Supreme Court. You know, keep going and going and going, right? Because they'll try and grind you down, and you should also consider which battles you pick, by the way, yeah, because these things can be very, you know, emotionally draining for some people. Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork and stuff to do. I would suggest, if you're going to write any kind of statements or letters, official letters, then use something like ChatGPT, the chatbot thing. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, AI, stay away from AI, it's a terrible, terrible thing. But you see, the great thing about this life is that it's basic physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? First law of physics. Everything they create can be used against them too. Yeah. So they created the internet to find out what everyone is having for dinner, to find out where they go, how they think, how they vote. Yeah. Data harvesting. Yeah. All of yours, so they know more about you than you would know about yourself, right? However, as great a tool as that is for them, it's also a great tool for us, because without it, we wouldn't all be here now. Yeah, we wouldn't be in this room right now without it. With so many millions and millions and millions of people wouldn't have this newfound knowledge of how to deal with certain situations and the legalities and looking up the laws. You know, what used to happen in the old days would be you would have to go somewhere where they had all the law books and look through the documents, you know, physically, manually. Now you can just do a search, you know. So, yes, it's been a powerful weapon for them and a powerful tool for them, but you can use it too. Same with AI, yeah? And it will write your letters for you like you're a professional legal person, you know, like you're qualified. Yeah, it will even, when you don't even ask it to, it will put all relevant legislation in, yeah, that backs it up, that particular statement. And all you have to do is write me a legal letter to British Gas to explain or include that I do not wish to contract with them, include this, include that, right? And then it will literally, within seconds, it will write it for you, and you just cut and paste that, fill in any relevant information. It will even, in some cases, find the address of the head office of the company you're actually addressing, you know, without you having to search for it. It will do all that, and it will put it all in, everything. So use it. It's a powerful, powerful tool. And I resisted it for a long, long time until my good friend Marcella, who is currently going through the High Courts, he's in court, I think, very soon, actually. He told me about it. He said, you should, you know, if you tried ChatGPT. And I said, no, I'm a bit resistant to it. I don't like to, you know, feed into this AI stuff. And he said, oh, David, you should try it. Seriously, just try it. So I thought, all right, well, I'll try it. And I was suitably impressed, I have to say. So get it to write all of your letters. If ever you're going to take a claim against a company, right, or a person or whatever, before you take action, the first thing you need to do is give them 30 days to remedy, and it's called a notice before action. Okay, so you write them, and again, you can get ChatGPT or whatever chatbot to write it for you, tell it what you want it, the fundamentals of what you want, and it will do the rest. But it should be titled Notice Before Action, right? And that gives them 30 days to remedy the situation. Because the way the court system works, it works on the basis that you have to have tried everything possible to remedy the situation before you get to the court stage. If you get to the court stage, then somebody has not been prepared to play ball, and that's why, you know, it's required with the court. So your notice before action is their last chance saloon, basically, before you then take action against them. But you have to give them that 30 days to remedy the situation, and it also lets them know that you're serious, that you are actually taking action. Because a lot of people, I remember many years ago, decades ago, when people used to say, oh, I'll write a letter, yeah, and they never got around to it. They never bothered getting the pen out and the paper and going to the post office and getting the stamp and posting it and all that stuff. It was just an empty threat. But these days it's so easy to, you know, knock up an email and shoot it off to them, right? So, again, still people would use it as an empty threat. I say follow through with those threats, and then they will realise that you're serious. They will realise that, oh Christ, and how did he manage to word it like that? He must have somebody legally advising him. They're not going to know it's ChatGPT. You know, they might at that point decide to drop it, or with their arrogance, they'll probably think, no, we're not interested, hoping that you won't bother taking it further. Because like I say, no fight is lost until you've surrendered. The moment you surrender is when you've lost. right? Now, don't feel bad if you've lost a battle, yeah? Sometimes you've got to lose a battle or two to win the war, okay? It's important, yeah? Sometimes, if you hadn't have lost that, you would never have set case law, because you can't set case law in a county court, only in a high court, in the higher courts. So, therefore, if you can get it to the higher courts, right, then obviously they're not going to overrule their fellow, they're not going to overrule Lord Denning's declaration of it being to be treated as cash, because he was master of the rolls. He was very, like, one of the highest judges and probably the most famous judge in British history. Very controversial judge. Yeah, he was very, very for the people in his rulings. So, it's a shame he's not still alive, really. Otherwise, you'd win it every time with him. But they're certainly not going to overrule him, yeah, because otherwise it completely destroys their system that they need to keep in place. They love this status quo, the situation, so they lose a few cases, right? But if there's case law is maxim in law, okay? It means it's been tried and tested and been found to be by, the highest of professionals. Yeah, so what the company says, the corporation that's saying, no, we don't accept that, well, tough. Yeah, so put it in front of the right judge, you'll get a result. Now, they're not going to want it published, so, if there's anybody reporting on it, even though you might set case law, yeah, it will be hidden away somewhere. It won't be put on Google unless you put it on Google. That's the thing, you see. And so if you do get a result, you need to really publish it. Put it out there as much as you can. Put it out there so other people can see that you had a result. And then if they've got a solicitor friend, like I have, albeit he's a commercial solicitor, so he does contracts for large companies and whatever, you can tap him up and say, can you send me a copy of this judgment? Give him the judgment and he'll send me a copy, and then I can use that and present it in court, because if you don't have the judgment, then the judge won't entertain it. He'll just say, well, I need to read it for myself. Yeah, I need to see the judgment. Sorry? Well, it's not that. Again, it's how they play the game, right? If they say, if you're relying on Fielding and Platt Limited versus Salim Najjar, right, Lord Denning's ruling, and you haven't got a copy of it for the judge to read, right, then he can just say it's hearsay, right? He can just class it as hearsay, right? If you're saying the Bills of Exchange Act 1882 Part 4, but you haven't got a copy of it, yeah, then it's hearsay, yeah? And he's not obliged, he or she is not obliged to do your research for you, right? So they'll be very blatant about that, because they don't like, giving fair justice to people, yeah, because, as I say, it kind of breaks down what if you have got a loud voice and you put it out there and it gained traction, went viral, and now everybody knows about it. That's the system screwed. Yeah? The system is screwed. And it's all based on, as I say, fear. Yeah? Because you think you've got to pay it. I've never in my life ever, and I'm 56, I've never paid a penny of council tax, ever. Or community charge, or poll tax, or whatever they wanted to call it. Never paid a penny. Yeah? That letter I got yesterday, posted through my door, was for council tax. Now, I don't know why it's only 5,049, because the last one was 8,000 and something, and, when they send me letters, I get about 8 of them all at once. Big bundle shot through my door. And all I do is I rip each one in half and pop it in the bin. I would have ripped that in half, but I thought, I'm doing a talk tomorrow. I'll take that with me. Yeah, just to show the colour psychology, for one, to trigger your fear. Yeah, the use of the red. The wording they use, such as, is another thing. if your goods do not clear the full amount at auction, we'll have no option other than to recommend that the council pursue another route, such as applying to the magistrates' court for a committal summons. And it goes on, other stuff. Now the thing is, some of them say we have the authority to apply to the court for a committal to prison order, right? You think, oh my God, they've got the authority to get a committal to prison order. What they're not telling you is you've got exactly the same authority. You can apply to the court for anything you want. Whether you'll get it or not is another matter, right? But again, like with the spider thing, they're not lying to you, okay? They're just not telling you the whole truth, okay? So beware of their clever wording, yeah? Beware of the words they use and how they use them, and try and read into it, right? Like, you know, if you don't have a TV license, you could get a fine up to £1,000. Could? What do you mean could? Not will. Yeah, not you will get a fine, but you could or you may. Do you know what I mean? Well, that's kind of leaving it quite ambiguous, isn't it? So,
Sorry,
yes.
I wanted to ask, I've had quite a lot of these letters. And,
Good.
recently, they got transferred into the name of a relative.
Into the name of a relative, right? Yeah.
Is that for my non-response, or they've been doing a research?
Yeah. So, what was it? What kind of debt is it? Is it council tax, a mortgage, or
I think that one is utilities.
utilities? Right. Yeah, probably utilities. So, they would generally, what they'll do is they'll get the information from the land registry. Now the thing is, when it comes to things like council tax, right, what gives the council the authority is the owner of the property, or you know, the person who's bought or owns the property. They allowed their solicitor to fill out the land registry form, right, their application. And when they did, where it states local authority, they put your local council down as the local authority. So that gives them authority, right? That's saying they are an authority over this property. So if you've done that, then what you need to do is submit form AP1 from the land registry to change an entry. And the entry you want to change is local authority to your name. Okay, so you become the local authority for that particular property. Then the council can't issue demands for council tax for that property. They can't impose a compulsory purchase order. They can do that all the time. You've got them listed as the authority. Yeah, you've given them that authority, but your agent done it on your behalf. Yes, my friend.
Sorry, that was the AP1 form land registry.
Yeah.
And what you could change it.
Yeah, the form AP1 is to change an entry on the register. So, you know, in some cases it could be, you know, that something is spelt wrong or whatever, and you need to fill out the form to submit it. But in this case, you're saying, I want to put myself down as the, so I've basically sacked them as the authority, and I've given me the authority.
It's just going online, getting the forms.
Yeah, you download the form online, it'll tell you exactly how to submit it. Now, if they come back to you, because what, obviously since this advice has got out there by the internet, in some cases they've come back to people and say, oh no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that, no, no, we're not accepting that. Well then take action against them. Take action against them in the court, because they have to do that. Yeah, it's your property. Yeah, and it's incorrectly registered because somebody else, without your knowledge, put down the council as the local authority, and you want to be the local authority for that property. Right? So, as I say, it's done as a standard thing. Most people wouldn't know about it unless you knew about it before you purchased a property. Yeah. In which case, then you could ensure that your solicitor, you could say to your solicitor, where it states local authority, I want my name there, not the council. Yeah? And if they say, oh, we can't do it, well, then you're no longer my solicitor, I'll register it myself. You've failed in your duty. You're there to represent my interests, and you haven't done. So therefore, you can sue them for that.
But going back to the question, how would they have obtained a relative's details?
So it'll either be on the land registry as their property. Are they named on the land registry as their right? So they'd have done it through the council electoral roll. No. How did they? How else would they have got it?
That's what's so odd about it. They're not close relative. They're not.
So what I would suggest there is putting in a DSAR, right, a data subject access request, asking them how they got that information. Yeah, where did they obtain it from? Who gave the authority, etc., etc. And then you might just get to the root of that problem as to how they got it. They may turn around and say, oh, we got it through the local council or something like that, or land registry or whatever, credit card company or your bank or whatever. It could be a credit reference agency. Yeah, but a DSAR should, clear that up. If you're asking them specifically how you got these details, or it would have to be the person who's now named. How did you get my details? Because these are protected details, GDPR. Data. It's a data breach. Yeah.
I was going to say I don't want to write to the utility company. So far I haven't corresponded whatsoever. So I wouldn't want to put the user in, but the relative, as you're saying.
Yeah, the relative could say, how did you get my details for this? I'm not liable for this. Yeah, and I didn't give consent to it, because no contract is binding if full consent and full knowledge has been given. So full disclosure has to be full disclosure. They can't hide anything. They can't trick you into it at all. And of course they do this all the time. They hide information from you. They trick you. Therefore, but they know that people are generally apathetic. Yeah. Therefore, they won't follow these things through. They'll make, they'll say, oh, well, I'm going to do this, but then they might never get time to do it. Yeah.
And is there a
It's
difference
blocking
in that?
data. It's blocking data when they don't give all the information.
What's that, sorry?
Is it GDPR? When they're blocking data, is a criminal act?
Yeah, well, yeah, you could put a complaint into the Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO, and say they've illegally obtained these details. As I say, the person whose details it is would have to do that. You can do it on their behalf, unless you've got a letter that, gives you the power of attorney to do it for them. So you could take that option.
Wouldn't you just send it back, not at this address?
Well, I mean, the thing is, they'll ignore that and they'll just come anyway, won't they? There's a lot of people do that. That's another thing, actually, so it's a good point. A lot of people, when it comes to things like speeding offences or whatever, they'll go, oh, not known at this address, or no, in fact, the most common one, lots of people are being told, no contract. I do not wish to contract, no contract, right? However, they make a big mistake when it's an offence like that, a traffic offence like that, because what they're saying is that document was served on the property, right? It came through the letterbox, and I, in my own handwriting, sent it back rather than respond within the 28 days, which I've got to respond to it. So if ever you're caught in a bus lane or doing 10 mile an hour over the speed limit, always respond to those letters, right? The 28 day to provide the driver details, but don't provide driver details. What you do is you say, oh, I'd like more information, please. I'd like an image of the driver. Right? I've done on my YouTube channel, Peace Officers UK YouTube channel, there's a video called Hypothetical Speeding Offence, where I create a hypothetical speeding allegation, and I say that I've gone to pick up my brother. I live in Havensheath, he lives in Crawley, right, about a dozen miles apart. I've gone to pick him up to bring him over to my place, to spend the day or the weekend or whatever, because his car's not working. It's being fixed. When I get almost back home with him, he said, "Oh, I've left my phone at home. I need to go back. But rather than you take me back, how about I just borrow your car? I'm insured to drive it on my insurance. I'll borrow your car." I go, "Okay, yeah, I'll see you when you get back." So both of us have used the same stretch of road, right, within 45 minutes to an hour of each other, right? Which one was it? Was it me or was it my brother? Well, who was the potential driver? They may say to you. You say, "Well, I can't name the potential driver because I'm only required to name the driver that I know to be the driver, whether that's myself or my brother, right? So I can't give you wild speculation, hearsay, So provide me with more evidence, physical evidence in the form of photograph or video to show an image, a clear enough image of the driver." And I say a clear enough image because he's my brother, right? He looks like me. We're about the same build. Shaved head. So which one was it? From travelling at 80 mile an hour in a 70 mile an hour, on a 70 mile an hour dual carriageway, with the sun and the sky glaring off of the windscreen, right? With it darker inside the car than it is outside the car, using a camera that is not 8K Ultra HD, it's going to be a very grainy image at best, travelling at that speed, right? So it could be me, it could be my brother, don't know. Which one was it? And then they're like, "Well, we don't know." It's like, "Well, then you've got no case, have you?" I don't know because it could have been me, but it could have not been me. It could have been my brother Paul. So I need to know before I name them who it actually is, where I can go, "Oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, my bad. Here's my details." Or "No, that's definitely not me. That's my brother. Here's his details." Right? So in which case they've got no case. Because without them providing that evidence and me giving a legitimate reason as to why both of us would be potentially using the same stretch of road at roughly about the same time of day, one of us was speeding, wasn't caught twice, so one of us was speeding. Which one was it? I don't know if I picked him up at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, because I didn't have a log. I didn't keep a log, and it's not reasonable to expect a member of the public to keep a log, right? So when they say, "Oh, you drove in a bus lane," well, prove it. Where's your proof? Show me the evidence that I drove in a bus. Well, you need to tell us who it was. Well, show me the evidence then, and I'll tell you if it was me or not. What if it's not me or my brother? What if it's one of the over 1.75 million clone cars currently on UK roads? And that was a 2018 estimate by Essex Police, right? Since then, we've had the implementation and the rollout of ULEZ cameras all over the country, right? And insurance premiums going sky high, so you can pretty much estimate that it's now over 2 million vehicles at least on the road, that there's been a huge increase of cloning number plates. Somebody contacted me actually a few weeks back to say that they've sent me this. It's not even my car. She said it's a completely different model of car to what the number plate is showing. It's not the same brand, it's not the same company, it's not the same model, none of it. So, I said, right, well, tell them that, and they'll see what an idiot they are when they put in what vehicle it is, and it's showing the image they've got was, I think, a Toyota or something, and theirs was a Kia, so completely different vehicles, but somebody's just taken a number plate and gone and put that on there, not even bothering that it's a different model of car. So there's plenty about, and therefore you've created a reasonable doubt. And the principle there's two principles in law. There's proof beyond reasonable doubt and The other one is balance of probabilities. Okay. In the absence of proof beyond reasonable doubt, they look at the balance of probabilities, right? The chance, if you say, well, I was the only one driving that day, but, you know, I don't remember driving at that speed. Well, the balance of probabilities are, if you said I was the only driver of the vehicle that day, the balance of probabilities is it was you, right? So they don't need the proof beyond reasonable doubt because you've essentially confessed to it. So always be very careful what you say to these people, yeah, and how you word things and how it can be taken. Because there's so many words that people don't, you know, I was just going to say understand. And there's one, the most commonly known one, stand under. Do you understand your rights as I've read them to you? Saying, do you stand under the rights as I've read them to you? And they read you your Miranda rights. So, yeah, you have to be very careful of the language they use and the fact that because of the fact that they created the language, you will incriminate yourself if you're not careful, yeah? Without realising it. And as I say, just saying in court, I do not consent to that, it's heard as, yes, it's owed, I'm bound by it, and I consent. Brilliant. Job done.
David,
Yes.
going back to bailiffs,
Yeah.
the latest one is threats of bankruptcy, which is putting a lot of fear in a lot of people.
Yeah.
What have you got to say about that?
Well, as I say, what you need to do is before it gets to that stage, take action against them. If they're threatening you with bankruptcy, take action against them so they're now the respondent, not the claimant, right? And then you're more likely to get your result as the claimant rather than the respondent. If you've settled it with a promissory note, right, and they're saying we don't accept that, so we're going for bankruptcy anyway, right? It will be in the county court that it takes place, so it's likely you would lose that case. But as I say, what you do then is you escalate it to the higher courts, and that's where you're likely to get your justice, or it'll get to a certain stage and be thrown out, yeah? Or they'll fail to file certain paperwork on time because there's time limits and stuff like that, that they will screw their own case up. As long as you're on the ball and you follow the processes, you can, you know, there's forms out there such as N244 to have an order set aside. You can appeal the bankruptcy, you know, appeal it to a higher judge and then take it to the Royal Court of Justice if you have to.
But have you heard anyone, you haven't heard anything of anyone being made bankrupt by them?
Yes, I have, yeah. There was somebody that actually went to court from Brighton, not Brighton, close by Brighton, that go to Hope Sussex. And he lost his case in the county court and he just decided, I can't be bothered. Can't be bothered. Luckily, he'd put his property in his wife's name, right? So he'd covered himself. So basically, his argument was, well, after a year, yeah, that bankruptcy will be cleared. Yeah, and as I say, he's put all this stuff in his wife's name, so that she owns it all and he owns nothing. So there's nothing for them to take from him. Right? So his company, he signed over to his wife and put himself down as an employee of the company on a low basic wage. So there's nothing they can take from him, you know what I mean? So there's always a way around these things if you're smart enough, if you're clever enough, and it's before it gets to a certain level. So he'd done all this before bankruptcy was declared. If bankruptcy, if they take bankruptcy proceedings against you, and then you change all this thing and put this in then that can be seen by the court as being deceptive and trying to hide assets.
So
and you could be in a lot of trouble.
What was his bankruptcy over? So we're talking about something like the council tax.
So this was a year ago. It was, I think, to do with council tax. But they'd taken him to court because he'd previously agreed a payment plan with them, right? So, you know, as a lot of people do, they will attend court and then the council will grab them and say, well, you won't have to go into court if you, you know, agree to pay £20 a month. And they go, okay, yeah, that'll get off my back. Yeah, but now he's created a contract and that is now enforceable in a county court. You see, up until that point, it wasn't enforceable. Yeah, apart from the fact that obviously on the property, if you own the property and they're trying to make you bankrupt to get the property, that's because you've given them authority with the land registry to say they are the authority, and so they can do that. You've pre-given them permission. Yeah.
But
So
do you think it's more of a scare, like, you know?
in a lot of
big
cases,
is the scare? Oh, we're gonna, our enforcement agents are going to come and arrest you.
yeah.
And
Now, in a lot of cases, so if they threaten me with bankruptcy, which is all written on there, it says about bankruptcy, well, they'll get fuck all out of me. Yeah, they get nothing. Yeah, I don't have any tangible assets. I don't own my own home. I live in social housing, right? So I rent social housing. You know, we're a low-income family with no assets. We don't own any property. There's no point. In fact, if they did take us to a bankruptcy court, they'd be doing us a favour. Yeah, that's how the court would see it. They'd be doing you a favour because you're not going to suffer from it. Do you know what I mean? Other than the fact that I wouldn't be allowed to be a director of the company, but that doesn't mean I couldn't work for the company. You know, so yeah, there's always ways around these things. If you're in a privileged position where you don't own anything, whether it be because of circumstances or because you've been smart enough to sign over or put it in a, you know, create a trust and put it in the trust. Now the trust owns it, you own nothing, you just have access and use of it, you've protected yourself. And therefore there's no point in bringing bankruptcy against you. And they would probably be advised by the court, you know, are there any assets? No. Why are you taking them to a bankruptcy court then? Do you know what I mean? Because in 12 months, that'll all be wiped clear. Yeah, it'll all be wiped clear, and then it can't be pursued after that. So, so sometimes for some people it can be a good thing, but yeah, in most cases it's an idle threat. Yeah, if they know you've got property or properties, then they'll probably see that as a viable option and probably want to try and go for you. So I would suggest putting it into trust or signing it over to your partner or something.
Okay. Yeah, because my brother, he had a council place, he's on sort of benefits, he's poorly and all that, and I think it was a loan or something, and they said, oh, we're bankrupt. Well, I can do it then. They did, and I said they didn't get fuck all. They wanted money off him, and then they ended up getting nothing. So. Exactly that. Yeah.
So, you know, it can end up doing somebody a favour rather than hindering them. It's only if you've got tangible assets that, you know, they're likely to do that. But if you've taken care of that already by putting it in somebody else's name, then, you know, you'll find in a lot of cases what they do is they just put a charging order against your property if you do own the property, rather than go with bankruptcy.
How does that work?
Well, they just, what it's supposed to be is they're supposed to apply to the court, and the court review the evidence and then issue an attachment to earnings order.
And that's the council who have created the fake liability.
Yeah.
Apply to a court to...
That's what they would have. No, that's what they're supposed to do. Right. That's not what they do. Right? What they're actually doing is just contacting either your employer or the DWP or the land registry and saying there's either, you know, an attachment to earnings, or in the case of land registry, there's a charging order, you know, that you need to accept. Yeah, we have a liability, blah blah. The land registry are in on the scam, so they're not going to turn around and go, oh well, hang on, You've got to prove that. Yeah. What you can do is
you'll put a £5,000 charging order on your property.
yeah.
Yeah.
What land registry are supposed to do is check the authenticity of that claim, right, and demand to see the court order that instructs them on fear of contempt of court if they don't, right? But that document doesn't exist, right? So because they haven't followed the correct process, because it's too expensive. They've got to employ solicitors. They've got to wait for a court date. They've got to give you the opportunity to attend and all that stuff. They don't want to do that, so they choose a different option, which is cutting corners. And in most cases, or certainly probably in all cases, the land registry will just go, yeah, no worries, yeah, fine. Just like the DWP will go, yeah, if you say there's an attachment to earnings, we're not going to argue with that. But you can put things in place. For example, with the land registry, you can submit form RX1, which is to alert you should any claims be made against any changes they have to alert you about, right, and give you an opportunity to address it, right? So that's RX1. It's basically like a restriction that you're placing on the property, and you can insist that they contact you, as I say, and then you can then question them and say, have you got the authority? Where's the order from the court? To enforce it. And of course they haven't got the order from the court because they didn't apply to the court for an order. So then it can be addressed that way. When it comes to things like DWP or your employer, you can contact them first before any application is made and have it on record to say, if anybody comes to you with an attachment to earnings request, you must ask them to provide proof that it has lawful authority from the court. Failure to do so will incur a fee, right? You put a fee schedule. I will charge you £5,000, and if you fail to remove it, I will take it, from the account. I will take action against you in the small claims court. Simple as that. Use the courts as your
Personal cash point.
as your personal cash point, exactly. And as a means to enforce what you want to enforce upon them, because as I say, they're going to say all kinds of crap to you. They don't have to tell you the truth, although in some cases they won't lie to you, they just won't tell you the whole context or the whole facts. And say, I held up warrant of entry, I can claim that's a warrant of entry because it says so. But I can't claim that it's a lawful warrant of entry from the court, right, issued by the court, because then I'm committing fraud, serious fraud at that. So if you take certain actions, you will protect yourself. If you do nothing, you won't protect yourself, and that's what they rely upon, is your apathy. They rely upon your apathy and your fear as well. So when these goons come out to your home, literally just say to them, no thanks, not interested. Or give them, as I say, the death stare. Yes, you do.
What's your view on the police aiding and abetting bailiffs?
Well, if you've learned Section 26 of the Criminal Justice Courts Act 2015, and you can quote it to them, then hopefully it won't get to that point, right? Because their assumption will be that you are educated enough in the law to know it verbatim, right? And if you know that, you probably know an awful lot more stuff. And it all comes down to ego. These people operate on ego, right? So a police officer is trained to take full control of the situation and be the loudest voice, right? And be assertive and, give commands, that kind of thing, right? So you have to take away that power and let them realise that if you persist, you're going to make yourself look stupid. If you infringe upon my rights, I'm going to take action against you, right? And they're going to assume that you've got the legal knowledge to do that, right? If you, as I say, if you've taken the time to learn certain information that you can quote to them off the bat, which they can't do, they don't want their ego dented and bruised and have to do the walk of shame, right? So it's about playing them with the knowledge game, yeah, and asserting. Don't ask them anything other than, you know, well, you don't ask them, can you identify yourself? You say, please identify yourself. So you're giving an assertive statement rather than asking their permission, essentially. And then rather than saying, are you aware of Section 26 of the Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015, you say to them, under the Section 26 of the, so you assert it as knowledge, you assert it as your point, but don't ask them the questions, right? Other than things like, are you qualified to give that assessment? Yeah, to ascertain the provenance of legal documents is what I say, but as I say, that will baffle them with the language, and they'll be like, oh, what? Because as I say, they're not the smartest cookies, you know.
Have you seen any evidence where the police are being paid to turn up to these things?
I haven't, well, I mean, police are obviously paid by organisations, private organisations, for like private policing, and for some reason they seem to be allowed to, but I'm not sure if it's lawful for them to be able to do so or not.
They're all corporations, aren't they? So I guess
exactly, yeah. So it certainly happens. I don't think if your local Bristow and Souter or Jacobs Bailiffs or Marston's Bailiff or whatever comes round to collect council tax, I don't think, I mean, mind you saying that, the police are paid, their wages are paid by the council, right? So they're always going to try and show favour to their paymasters. It would be then come down to, as I say, asserting your authority upon them and telling them how it is, rather than, but do it in a very polite, calm and professional manner. Because if they can see they're stoking your ego and your anger, right, they'll play on that and they'll try and get you on a public order offence or something like that. I think we've pretty much run out of time.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, no problem on that. Yeah, one more question. Go.
I was reading on a color, specific color means writing a letter. So we write these letters on red and black color, or gray, or blue, or green.
Well, when you're writing to them, you mean?
Yes.
Just do it normal black. Normal black, yeah. Normal black. Yeah, it's as long as you follow the process, right, the correct procedures, i.e. you've issued a notice before action, you've asked them to stop, they didn't stop. You've issued them with a notice before action, they still didn't stop, they ignored it, right? Now, well, I've got no option but to go to court. Yeah? Then the court will favour you because, as I say, you're the claimant rather than the respondent. The respondent's always on the back foot. It doesn't mean you won't win as a respondent, right? It just means that it's a tougher hill to climb up. Yeah, if you're the claimant, you're at the top of the hill, pissing downwards. You know. Yes. Good.
Can you recommend? Would you, if you did end up going to court, would you represent yourself, or would you?
I would always represent myself.
Okay.
Always represent myself. I've had experience of representing myself, but I've also had experience of being represented, and I know I can do a damn sight better job. Because all legal professionals work for the Crown. Okay, they take their bar exam, they take their oath to the Crown before they're entitled to practice in court. But also, if you're a litigant in person, it makes a difference. It changes the dynamics. In a case where you're the litigant in person, in let's say a criminal case, right? You get to give a closing statement, but the prosecution don't. right? They're not allowed to if you're a litigant in person. If you're represented, they're allowed to give a closing statement, and your agent is allowed to give a closing statement, right? But if you're a litigant in person, it takes away the right from them. So if they fail to prove their case during the cross-examination, yeah, then, you know, more pity them. Whereas you will get the final word and you get to frame it exactly how you want without them being able to rebut that, right? So it's always worth being the litigant in person. And so all it takes is a bit of knowledge and confidence and knowing that, you know, what you've done is I've got the legislation here that states I'm entitled to do that. I've got this here that states that, you know, I'm accused of speeding and accused of failure to provide driver details. Well, I asked for more evidence, and according to subsection 4 of section 172 of the Road Traffic Act 1988, it states that a person is not guilty of an offence if, no problem, if they've, I've forgotten the bloody direct quote now, but basically it's basically saying if using reasonable diligence, it's impossible for you to be able to identify the driver. So for an example, you know, if you're saying, well, I haven't even used that road, yeah, so how can I say who the driver is? That's clearly, or in my opinion, a cloned vehicle. Prove it's not. Right? Prove it's not. Yeah? If it is, how is it possible for me to name the driver? It's not. Right? If I'm saying I'm the only person that was driving that day, and I did drive on that road, but I didn't break the speed limit, balance of probabilities is you did. Yeah? Because you've admitted you were driving, you were the only person driving, right? You did use that road. Balance of probabilities is a cloned vehicle didn't use that road around the same time as you did. You know, so as I say, that's, you know, the other principle in court. But yeah, always represent yourself, and also you're learning so much more knowledge by doing that. You're you know, building up your database, you're building up your confidence, you're building up, you know, they will allow for the fact that if you say, you know, please excuse me, Your Honour, but I am a little bit nervous, it's my first time doing this. However, you know, I believe this is my defence, you know, so on and so forth. Then, you know, the judge will give you more leeway than they would a corporation who have got a solicitor fully represented. So yeah, always be a litigant in person, I say. Right, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you all. Just to say, if you do need any templates or anything, or a copy of the promissory note, the no trespassing, private property notice, they are all available in the resources section of the website, which is just peaceofficers.uk. It's not .co.uk, it's just peaceofficers.uk. And you can get all these documents and a copy of Section 26 Criminal Justice Accords Act, etc. Thank you very much.